There are a few moments in life that'll make a man spit out his coffee, choke on his eggs, and nearly stumble over a goat in his bathrobe. Finding a brand new public electric vehicle charging station planted smack in the middle of your front yard is one of them. It came with flashing blue lights, a pristine concrete slab, and a sign that read Property of Pine Hollow HOA stabbed into the soil-me soil, right where my granddad used to grow his prized tomatoes. I stood there in my socks, gawking at it like it was some extraterrestrial gadget. When I traced the thick black cable snaking under my grass to the breaker panel on the side of my barn, the same one I'd rewired myself 2 decades ago, something in my gut clicked like a faulty switch. That charger wasn't just squatting on my land, it was siphoning power from my meter like an Univui TED guest raiding the fridge at a family reunion. I'm not the type to raise a fuss. I like my mornings calm, my coffee bold, and my electric bill steady. But that day I could already hear the faint buzz of HOA nonsense humming in my ears like a pesky fly. Sure enough, right on cue, Margaret Hensley, president of the Pine Hollow HOA, came strutting up my path like she owned every blade of grass. Margaret's the kind of person who says we when she means you, and flashes a grin while explaining how much better your life will be if you just obey her rules. She wore a sun hat the size of a hubcap and sipped some murky green concoction from a mason jar, looking like she just rolled in from a wellness retreat. "Oh good, you're awake," she chirped. "Isn't it gorgeous? We installed it last night, a community upgrade. This'll boost all our property values." I stared at her, then at the charger, then back at her. "Margaret," I said, "you stuck a DULA 30,000 public charging station in my front yard without asking, and you think I'm gonna send you a thank you note?" Her smile faltered. "Well, technically, the edge of your lot falls within the HOA's improvement zone, per the modernization plan we approved at last quarter's meeting." "I wasn't at that meeting." "You didn't RSVP." "I've never RSVP'd. I'm not even in your HOA." She tapped her iPad like it was a sacred scroll. "That's a matter of interpretation. Our updated bylaws say all properties within the VY-SUL range of the community entrance sign are under implied HOA participation. Yours is right there. Visual range, it's a legal term." "No, Margaret, it's a made-up term." She chuckled like I was a kid struggling with multiplication. "Don't worry, Tom, the installation's fully funded by HOA dues. It won't cost you a penny." Those words hit me square in the wallet. "Margaret, is that thing hooked to my barn's power?" She blinked, then gave me that pitying look you'd give a lost dog. "Well, we had to connect it somewhere, didn't we? You've got that old breaker box just sitting there. Jimmy said it'd be the easiest tie-in." I wanted to yell, but instead I took a deep breath, let it out through gritted teeth, and marched over to the barn. Sure enough, my trusty old fuse box had a shiny new conduit jutting out, duct-taped in spots, sloppily caulked in others. Jimmy, the HOA's unofficial electrician and walking fire hazard, must have done it. The man couldn't wire a lamp without sparking a blackout. I turned back to Margaret. "Let me get this straight. Your HOA snuck onto my property at midnight, dug up my yard, hardwired a charger to my power, and now expects me to pay so strangers can charge their cars for free." She pursed her lips like she'd bitten into a lemon. "You make it sound so selfish. It's a shared resource. So's water, but I don't let you drink mine off my bill." She mumbled something about stubborn folks and modern progress, then waddled off, probably to ruin someone else's day. I stood there a long time after she left, staring at that charger. Not 10 minutes later, a sleek black Tesla pulled up, plugged in, and the lights on the box started flashing like a casino game. I heard the hum of my electricity being sucked dry, picturing my meter spinning like a slot machine, except I wasn't the one cashing out. That night, my daughter Sarah showed up out of the blue, goats in the back of her SUV and a sleeping bag slung over her shoulder. "Mark cheated on me with his yoga instructor," she said as a hello. "I'm crashing here for a bit." "No questions." "I didn't ask." She took over the loft, the goats claimed the shed, and we sat on the porch sipping whiskey, watching the EV charger blink like a tacky relic from tomorrow. "Why don't you just unplug it?" she asked. "Too simple. They'd just plug it back in." "Sabotage it?" "They'd sue me." She took a sip, then smirked. "You could repurpose it." I raised an eyebrow. "Repurpose? Ever thought about upgrading your fence?" The goats bleated right then like they were in on it. Next morning I was up before the sun, spending 4 hours tracing cables, testing resistance, and checking load capacity. That old lineman brain of mine kicked into gear. I knew how to rewire a system without tripping any flags. If they wanted my power, fine, I'd give it to them, just not how they expected. By noon, the charger looked unchanged on the outside, but inside it no longer fed their box. I'd rerouted it to a hidden subline that snaked under my driveway and into the high-tension wire of my pasture fence. I hadn't used that fence since the cattle days, but now it buzzed to life. A squirrel brushed the top rail and launched like a firecracker. The charger still blinked innocently, but no juice flowed to it. It was now a decoy, an HOA-funded battery masquerading as progress. That evening, another Tesla rolled up. The driver plugged in, waited 10 minutes, scratched his head, and drove off. The fence, meanwhile, hummed like a coiled beast. I leaned back in my rocker, sipped my whiskey, and grinned at Sarah. "Dad," she said, raising her glass, "you just turned green energy into a weapon." "No," I said, tipping my hat toward the humming field. I took it back. By the third Tesla that pulled up and left baffled, I was 3 moves ahead of the HOA. The wiring was perfect, buried deep enough that even Jimmy's shovel-happy hands wouldn't find it without a sonar. I'd routed the power straight to the fence, adding regulators to spare the wildlife. It worked like a charm. A pair of raccoons tested it that night, and one let out a yelp like a siren before cartwheeling into the weeds. I swear the goats cheered. Sarah filmed it and posted it online with the caption, "Squirrel-proof 9000." The video blew up overnight, thousands of views, comments ranging from, "This guy's a legend," to, "Please sell the blueprints." One farmer from Kentucky even offered to pay me to rig his place the same way. I told Sarah to yank it down before the HOA caught wind, but she said the internet had already taken it and run. The charger sat there like a puzzled robot, linking, showing no charge, then idling every time someone plugged in. Jimmy showed up a few days later, scratching his head and reeking of burnt coffee and cheap energy drinks. He poked around with the voltage meter, reset the breaker, swapped a fuse. Nothing. I watched from the porch, sipping iced tea and waviwaying once just to watch him ignore me. That afternoon, Margaret stormed up my driveway in her golf cart, complete with a Clean Energy Champion sticker and a little flag flapping like she was leading a parade nobody signed up for. "We're having issues with the charger," she snapped, hopping out like she was on a crusade. "It's been down for days." "Oh," I said, feigning surprise. "Maybe it's solar-powered. Needs more sun." "It's not solar, Tom." "Shame. Missed opportunity." She squinted, searching my face for a crack. "Jimmy thinks someone messed with the wiring." "Well," I said, "that'd be illegal. Good thing no one would do that." She huffed and switched tactics. "You're responsible for the power source, remember? We hooked it to your barn line. Technically, it's your utility that's failing." "Then technically," I said, standing up and stepping toward her, "you're stealing my electricity to run a device I didn't approve on land I own." She didn't reply, just fiddled with her clipboard and stared at the charger like it might save her. I let the silence hang until she squirmed. Sarah, who'd been brushing a goat nearby, gave me a subtle nod like she was ringside at a boxing match. "I want this fixed, Tom," Margaret finally said. "We're a green community. People rely on that charger." "No," I said, voice calm but firm. "You rely on me not knowing my own wiring. That's done." That night, I saw flashlight beams bouncing near the fence. I stayed inside, peeking through the blinds. Jimmy was out there with a multimeter and a cheap wire tracer, hunting for a break. Poor guy, the subline I'd buried was shielded, rerouted through the attic, and split across 3 dummy grounds before hitting the fence. Even if he found a hint, he'd think it was an old sprinkler loop. I'd built trickier circuits in high school. This was nothing. The real kicker came 2 days later with a thick envelope from the HOA cease and desist letter in bold legalese, accusing me of sabotaging public infrastructure, breaching a shared utility agreement, and opposing eco-progress. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my sandwich. Sarah read it over my shoulder. "They actually wrote, terroristic energy redirection," she said. "What does that even mean?" "I think it means they're mad I outsmarted them," I said, flipping to page 2. "They demanded I restore the charger's connection or face a DULA 1000 weekly fine." I wrote back in neat cursive, attaching a 1987 land survey, a utility map proving my barn power was private, and a photo of the no trespassing sign I'd put up 3 days earlier. I even tossed in a printout of the raccoon video with a sticky note. "Fence seems to work fine. Regards, Tom." The next morning, Sheriff Daniel swung by after Margaret called him. He leaned against his beat-up cruiser, grinning. You really wired the fence to that charger? Wouldn't say that, Sheriff, I said, handing him some tea. I'd say the charger's not doing what they hoped. New tech's tricky. He chuckled. Margaret's leave VYD says you're blocking community access. Funny, I said. I didn't see a vote before they dug up my yard. He nodded slowly. You're clean. Your name's on this land and you're not in the HOA. They know that now. As he left, he asked for the goat VYDeo for his wife. I obliged. But Margaret wasn't finished. The next afternoon, while I was checking the fence voltage with Sarah, we spotted a glint by the Sheeta trail camera, half hidden under leaves, aimed at the barn. Sneaky little devoiless, Sarah said, picking it up. Amateurs, I muttered. Didn't even hide it right. The footage showed nothing but goats chewing wires and Jimmy tripping into a puddle. Sarah posted that clip too. So the HOA had turned to spying, yet they still couldn't figure out why their charger was a useless blinking lump. My pasture was locked down tighter than a bank vault, my power bill stayed flat, and every stray dog learned to avoid the humming fence. This wasn't just about electricity, Anna Marie, it was about principle. They'd invaded my land, tapped into my life. Now they'd learn what I'd known for years. Give a man a switch, he'll flip it. Give him a reason, he'll rewire the whole grid.